Well, wouldn't you like to do this for a living? Yeah, so today we're gonna look over my Pikmin sprites. So there's a bit of an elaborate story to break down here. So I guess we could start at the very beginning to kind of get to where we are now. So this is good old Matt Dog 1 million, aka Michael Peterson, aka Juliusaurus. He is still active on YouTube and Twitch. I've been meaning to reach out to him for my Pikmin 18 project, so I hope to do that someday. And later on, also Ymot392, same thing. I did reach out, and I've actually messaged them before. We've actually like had a conversation because it was about a certain other character in the Pikmin fan base, I guess. But yeah, so Matt Dog 1 million and Ymot392, they're like the main sprite people before me. So Matt Dog is the one who first created these. So you could basically say every sprite comes down to this. Every sprite is basically based on his style that he made all the way back in like, I don't know, '04. It was around the time Pikmin 2 came out, I think. That's when this all happened. And even like Ymot392, if you watch like they made animations as well called the Pikmin DS Adventures, and those came out right before Pikmin 3 did. I think maybe a couple years before. I'd say like 2008 to 2010ish, and then 2012, 13 is when we enter Wii U. But anyway, yeah, so they're like the main sprite people. So obviously I have used their sprites as not necessarily a base of mine because I obviously do use their sprites. And then there's also, most importantly, there's this one here. This is a bigger Pikmin sprite sheet. I believe, okay, it is hella compressed for some reason. I have a better version, but I believe this was made by either Nightshade Axel or Ryan Frogger. But it's basically just a compilation, including like a custom Pikmin type, whatever. But the main thing is that like me, how did I get here? So I've been I've mentioned this before on the main channel where I got into Pikmin around 2015 because of Zach Scott Games, and I was at the same time I was interested in a website called Scratch. So one day, after both interests just like conflicted, I searched Scratch I searched Pikmin on Scratch, and lo and behold, I found something called Pikmin: The Small Big Movie, and in it featured the sprites. So I've always wanted to like. Well, after that, I started using the sprites. Basically, I just pulled them because you could just pull from other projects. So I pulled them from there, but not all the sprites were like good. Some of them were like cheap quality or like awkwardly sized. So I went in eventually to kind of redesign them, but that didn't come for another couple years. So for the longest time, I'm like running with whatever crappy versions of sprites that exist already on the website until about like I'd say 2020. I went in and started manually redrawing all of the sprites based on these sheets in pixelart.net or something like that. Not like paint.net, but like an actual pixel art website that I would export and then upload to Scratch as individual frames. So that was fun. The colors were a bit off, but then eventually later in 2020 I got into Adobe Animate, so it's much easier for me to just use the sprites as is, as it was to like, even for Scratch I could have just like copied this, create a new thing, but instead I just drew it hand, and that was annoying, but oh well. So now we're into my era, so we're in 2020 beyond now. So let's go over to my sprite sheet. So as you can see, this is the same as that other one. Obviously you can actually see the pixels, that's important. But most notably, I called it edited sprites because I edited a good amount of these to kind of get like my own, like this one, like a custom ship that's actually based on DS Adventures, like the Pikmin 4 onion, which I based on the Pikmin 2 one, and even have like the Pikmin 3 onions from a different sprite sheet, of course, and a bunch of other stuff like like Bulbman, some enemy icons. This character, this is the one I was talking about with Ymot392. His name is Jessia. He appeared in the DS Adventures, and I've just been kind of just using him in my stuff every now and then. This good old like Rocket Man based on Pikmin 251. I even have like 8-bit sprites. These aren't as important because like you don't really see these that much, but most importantly, the Pikmin themselves. So this is only up to Pikmin 2. So the question is like, what did I do for Rock and Winged? Well, there was another sprite sheet made by someone named Omega Zero, and I've been using their Rock and Wing sheets. But then another problem. What about Ice and Glow Pikmin? Because Pikmin 4 was on the way, and at the time, I was the only one, I think, really active within, I guess, spriting, because that was back in 2013 with Pikmin 3. Now we're in like the 2020s. Pikmin 4 is on the way in 2023. So what did I do for Ice and Glow Pikmin? Rock Pikmin, Winged Pikmin. I just used their sheets from Omega Zero, which even had like diagonal sprites, which I've used some in my animations. I've just used their sheets and just made it into like rock and ice and glow. The thing with the glow Pikmin is that it's static, so it's just one single sprite. I have like started changing it now where like the stem slightly angles back now when they move, which is kind of how they move in the game, so that's kind of the main thing. But let's talk about ice Pikmin real quick. So most notably with my ice Pikmin sprites compared to actual like ice Pikmin is that, you know, they don't look like this. This is like a little like trapezoid. Ice Pikmin obviously don't look like that. They look more like cubish. Not necessarily round like rock Pikmin, but like a little bit more shaped. I have on the Pikmin fanon wiki. So there's a whole story where after I made my second ice Pikmin short, someone went in and screenshotted my sprite and used it on the fanon wiki. Eventually, the main admin Cheapy reduced it to a normal size because it was a screenshot by like making it into a sprite. And then later on, they changed it so it's more like shapy based on how ice Pikmin actually look. And I've been thinking of like changing it to kind of match it. I'm still debating whether or not I'll do that, but for now, I'm more or less just used to how my ice Pikmin look. This is just ice Pikmin to me now, you know? There is some like weird things, like for example, the arms stick out too much here because I kind of matched it with the rock sprite and I probably shouldn't have, but that's on me. Anyway, that's ice Pikmin and Pikmin 4. But then like, you know, this spreadsheet's pretty full, you know, like I'm gonna need some space. So I'm like, all right, I'll make my own new sheet. So I created this. This is called full. So as you can see, I didn't really do much with this. I was gonna like basically template it so it's very obvious what sprites are what. But then I'm like, this doesn't really work for me. I've seen like Pixel Craftian where they have like all of their sprites in just one sheet. So I figured, you know what, that's what I'll do. So I started from there and then just added all like other sprites. But now we're in like different kinds of eras here. So over here, because let's look at this. There is a big difference between these two sets of sprites, is that there are colored outlines opposed to black outlines. So this was a choice by me last year in 2024 that I was like, I feel kind of bad that like I've been doing this whole sprite thing for so long that like I don't want it to feel like I made the sprites, you know? So I want to like change them in such a way that like they're kind of mine, but they're not really mine. So in the end, they are still, of course, Matt Doug 1 million, YMouth392. Actually, I guess mostly just Matt Doug for the Pikmin, and then also Omega Zero for Ice and Winged Pikmin, for Rock and Winged Pikmin. And then this was me, but they're, you know, based on these because like I should have used a better wing sprite, but I'm too used to it. I can't change it back. So I had this whole thing going on where I was like, all right, I'm going to change it. So the best way I could come up with it is black outlines, or get rid of the black outlines. There is actually a much smaller change I haven't really ever pointed out. So red Pikmin, infamously, just the way they look fine, right? But if we go over to Wymot's sprite sheet for red Pikmin, they look a bit flat, and the main reason why is that in most sprite sheets, this is the worst example, in most sprite sheets, red Pikmin are accompanied by a third color. They always have like a dark and a light color, but this one also has an even brighter color. And none of the other types ever had this. It was only red Pikmin. I guess it worked because of the nose, but I was always just like, why not the other ones? So, before we like continue that, let's jump around a bit. Pikmin 79. So, these are all the custom sprites, I guess. These were from the April Fool's video in 2023. This is from Pikmin in the future, and then this is when I expanded on all 9 of them for what's it called, Pikmin 79. So I made it a whole thing where it's like, oh, it's set in the future or whatever. But because this is the same blue Pikmin from like other videos where it's in 2023 Pikmin 4, I decided to be a cool little detail that like to show it's kind of like aged a bit, I guess, that he would get the little like he would get a third lighter color on his body, you know, on his head and right where his arm is, to kind of match the red Pikmin. Meanwhile, like the other ones, you know, they don't. So I was like, all right, that's a cool like design choice. So when I came time to do the colored outlines, I decided to add them in for each of them. So every single one now has this extra little glow to them. Rock Pikmin and Ice never needed them. Winged and Glow Pikmin do. So I added that in. I made the colors match, whatever. Flowers even. So that's when I did the big change in 2024 at the end of Pikmin 79. That's kind of like the basic rundown, I guess. Here are the like costumes from that Halloween one I did, and you can see there are a bunch of like different sprites. I actually just remembered something. I like this one. This is based on the Pikmin in Super Mario Bros. 2 Mushroom Pikmin. Anyways, one thing I just remembered was Bulbmin. So There are a lot of different kinds of Bulbmin. This is I think Nightshade Axles, and then this is Wymots, and then where is it? Where is mine? Where is mine? Where is mine? I guess here. This is mine. So I did kind of mess up with Bulbmin, but it's kind of like too late to go back on it. Where the thing was, Bulbmin are not the size of dwarf Bulborbs, but then I obviously made the choice to just stick a stem on a dwarf Bulborb, and now that's my Bulbmin. So bit tough to go back on. That's kind of the thing. When I make a change, it's hard for me to go back on, unless we're talking about the colored outlines again, because now we're past Pikmin 79. All the sprites now have colored outlines. I've like kept that as the main thing. Even other things like onions, ships, the captains, they all have that now. Unless we go to the Omega future, aka Pikmin 18B and 11, also known as explaining every fan-made Pikmin type, because I made the choice for only this to go back to the black outlines, and as a result, even Pikmin 79. So you see in like Tales from Pikmin 79 Plus, they all have the black outlines still, even though I changed it to colored outlines. I kind of like that as like a distinction. Yeah, so I gave them all like the classic black outlines for these, as opposed to colored outlines. Some of these obviously, you know, have outlines, but that just, you know, makes sense. But yeah, I mean, look at this. This is all those fan-made sprites I drew back in February and March. Like I said, I'm gonna make a part 2 to this, so you'll see even more of these. Some of these you didn't even see because I like jumped around during the last part. I don't even know what like some of these are. I can't remember for the life of me. And then there are the boys down here in the corner. Anyway, one thing kind of funny, I kind of made Mauve Pikmin like my sprite, my own Pikmin. It's actually based on Dad's reviews. He came up with that idea because he hates the color. So I'm like, you know what, Mauve Pikmin, and I made them immortal. They'll never no. Wow, I cannot talk. They'll never die. Yeah, just general sprite stuff. Oh, down here we got my Pikmin versus Super Mario Bros. Sprites. You can see even like a beta Louie. These are based on the Mario Maker sprites for each of them, so I've kind of just used those as the template. Man, I was really gonna go with that. I'm kind of glad I changed it. It's kind of funny though. Little UI stuff. I never used this that much, and now I just remember something that's really important that to my sprites. So let's talk about leaf, flowers, and buds. So just look at the way the bud is mounted here. This, to me, like, starting when I made my animations, I started like this, but I was like, this looks a bit weird, so I did this instead. So buds, I have them, so there's like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces of stem. I have them go down on the 5th one. Meanwhile, the other ones, they connect right at the end of the 5th one, even the flower. But like I said, look at this. This doesn't look right to me. You know, this is Wymott's sprite. This isn't mine. So what I would do is I take the corner of this and just snap it down like that. That's how I do my flower Pikmin. This doesn't even look like a flower Pikmin. Is mine not even match that? Let's see. Flower blue Pikmin. Do I have that in here? I guess that's just how they look. But yeah, I made that choice where I was like, alright, for a consistent visual, the buds are going to be like one section lower. And that's just kind of how I kept that. But another thing, the direction. As you can clearly see, there are front and back-facing sprites of each one. And I've like rarely ever used these. Like you see here, when they're facing front, it doesn't look right to have the leaf at an angle. I probably could have done leaf at an angle for this one. I put a vertical one. I even do it, you know, it's weird, there's not one here. Like, for example, when it's a in-between, so it's like 1, 2, back, 1, 2. I would have put the middle leaf here, but I did not. I don't know if there's any sprites in here of me actually doing that. Could have sworn that's like something I would have done in here at some point. I'm kind of surprised. But even like, you know, seedlings, like, I guess those seedlings, yeah. This is from the wallet video where I had like the arms separately. I do want to start doing some more like intricate animation. As you see with that Pikmin missing leaf video, I did this thing where like the head actually physically moves back. In Pikmin Numa Numa, I had this thing where the arms were like detached, so I could do like a Dorkly level effect where it was like the arms just animate separately. But it was only for the 1 bit, so it wasn't like that bad. And even here, it's just a wallet, so one thing that's going to bother me no end is that the fact that winged Pikmin always have 2 sprites, so that's a bit annoying. It makes it easier for some animation, but annoying for others. There's like, I feel like I'm moving around a lot. This is like the big flower from the Nectar Addiction. This is a classic. There's Puffstool, all that. Ships, captains. I had to come up with like a consistent visual. I even actually Brittany, I had to redraw so it matched her colors correctly because Brittany's sprites were drawn back when Pikmin 3 was like first unveiled, and she wore yellow instead of red. But like the helmets were like all awkwardly different colored, so I had to go in manually to like fix that. That was a whole thing. I think I've got them basically all down now. I was gonna say like some colors don't match each other, but I think for the most part they do now. I think I've done enough effort. These are like old sprites. Mostly you can kind of section them off. I was gonna like have every colored sprite like full, but I chose not to. I don't know why I still have this section. I should just delete it for space. But I kind of keep this as like old sprites, all the new sprites, which is actually kind of insane to think about. But all the new sprites, and then the 8-bit sprites. What other sheets did I got in here? I think, ooh, here, remix. So I added this whenever I do like sprites based on the fan-made types, but like I don't want to keep them in this one because it's a little bit too crowded. So I came up with this area here. You can see like the Nim Kip, the Rebel Mushroom Pikmin, the Killstreak Pikmin, Clawed, Sand, Green, other green I guess. This is the green from Pikmin Numa Numa. In fact, look at their flower. It's like completely different. I actually chose to keep it like that just to represent the original, but like this is how I mount my flowers now. And then my boys, the Pikmin 79 boys here. Ice Winged, OGs. Yeah, see, like here's the yellow Brittany. But like I said, I'm gonna try to get more in depth with these animations, like in terms of pixeling. So that's why you'll probably start seeing stuff like the front-facing and back-facing leaf, flower, and bud, because I feel like it could make it look a bit more in depth, a bit more animated. Here's what I was talking about. See, the arm is separate, is a separate part, and then same thing here. I guess one thing I do want to mention is my style of animation. I'm not going to pull up Adobe Animate. I have it open, but I'm not going to pull it up. The style where it's like, oh, it's these like little cheap little pixel art Pikmin over hyper-realistic backgrounds, just real-world images. I feel like that just kind of matches the aesthetic of Pikmin. Originally, in my first animation for YouTube, Steve the Trooper, I did draw the backgrounds based on the areas from Pikmin 1. And then as we see in stuff like Puffman versus Boldman, I just took screenshots via like just playing it on the Switch, taking screenshots, and then photoshopping all of them out of frame. That's just kind of how I do the backgrounds now. Whereas like I said before, I used to draw them, and I've kind of like debated whether or not to go back to drawing them, because like if I had to draw them, would I like do good backgrounds or would I just do cheap little drawings? Because like I said, Pikmin DS Adventures is one of my biggest inspirations, and in most of them, they're just like drawings. Hell, my favorite episode is the Veterans Day special, and it's entirely drawn because it's like, oh, it's the Forest Naval 2. And so I like, do I want to just keep doing that, or do I want to do hyper-realistic backgrounds? I feel like the backgrounds work. Like I said, matches the Pikmin style, but I kind of like drawing them as well. It kind of creates its own little look. I didn't even like mention how like Puffman, by the way, thanks to that video, Puffman are like my favorite Pikmin now for some reason. Like they always have. That was one of the things that got me into animating Pikmin. So I'm very grateful to YMod392 for that, and I guess to Matt Dog to an extent for drawing these in the first place. I mean, like I can't imagine that, you know, like you drew these years ago and I'm still using them, you know. That's how crazy this is. I want to reach out to him and talk to him about these sprites, because these have gone a long way. I've made my own versions. I've chosen not to use other people's versions. Like here, this is Wymod's winged Pikmin. The rock Pikmin, as you can see, are a bit off-colored, I guess, maybe compared to mine. I will say, in my animations, rock Pikmin stick out a bit like a sore thumb because they're way too detailed for what they should be. Like, given the fact that until last year, every sprite basically had 2 colors to it, and this one always had like 6. In fact, there's even like a little color chart over here. I have here a custom sprite sheet by Pikmin Master. By the way, this one was actually drawn by Pikmin Freak 1 million. By the way, that's their name, I guess. But this is like really old, you know, and like I don't know what it is seeing old like Pikmin sprites from an era before Pikmin 3. It's just really interesting to me. Like even here, you know, these Pikmin, like I said before, Pikmin 3. But it's really cool seeing like what ideas people had, you know, orange Pikmin, green Pikmin, and what they would even do. What I love, some people have made giant like canvases of just like pixel art background with them just covering it with sprites as if it's like telling a story, and I love those so much. I want to make my own just to have one because like those are so cool. I should make one of those one day. I'll probably do it in here so it's like pixel snapped. There is one final thing to mention. White Pikmin. So, Paint.net has this one issue that has happened to me, and unfortunately it is a big problem because you cannot undo this. When you go to save, you get a bunch of settings. If you accidentally like change these, like if I accidentally scroll wheel here, we get some different things. And if I hit save and I close out of it, that's it. That sprite sheet is dead. And way early into my sprites, I did that to this one, and that's why it's called edited sprites now. Because most notably, white Pikmin, they are very off color compared to what they're supposed to be. If we take like the color samples and put them right here, you can see there's a big difference here. Way more bluish in tone, so this one looks way more warmer as a result. So luckily, once we get around the time to complete, once I start doing the outlines, I'm able to start fixing all the coloring issues, because now I have like this little thing over here. I can just double check, make sure every color, even like the flowers and buds, are supposed to match white Pikmin. So I can do this now to like double check all the colors match. Hell, I didn't even know the winged Pikmin like wings are meant to match, but that's what I do now, and it's good. But like I can see here, this one, you know, it depends though. Like light color, dark color, so there's no like middle color because it's a flower. So I have to make sure of that, unless, like I said with Pikmin 79, we went back to traditional outlines. So as a result, here, white Pikmin are normal colored, but in, like for example, and I think in Killstreak Pikmin, you'll see it, where this is actually the white Pikmin. The white Pikmin has the off color. I made it like a choice where I was like, oh, in the past we get new updated sprites, but in the future it eventually reverts, because that's like thousands in the future. Who the hell cares? 79, you know? When is Nintendo gonna make Pikmin 79? You never know. But yeah, so this sprite sheet was kind of dead. Like, it is dead now because I can't really pull from it without accurate colors anymore. Like, see, this is stuff like 2023 we're talking. I haven't really, I mean, I have put some stuff here. Like, this was from earlier this year, but like, I don't use this one anymore. I switched to this one, and because of the outlines too. So, like for example, I do the color black. You're not gonna see too much of it. It's mostly just eye colors now at this point for these sprites. Wow, it really is just eye colors. Look at that. That's crazy. But yeah, those are my Pikmin sprites. I hope to get more advanced with them in the future, and hope to make my own. Not necessarily make my own sprites, but kind of make them my own. You know. Still feel like I'm relying heavily on YMAT392 and MattDog1Million, but I guess without them I wouldn't be here today, would I? I have a link where I put all my sprite credits, so I'm gonna put that in the description. I'm also gonna put Pikmin Numa so you can kind of just see them being showcased. All sorts of sprites I made. But yeah, that's fun stuff.